Hello beautiful artists, thank you for joining me for this tutorial. Today I'm going to share with you 3 quick and easy watercolor bookmark designs. If you're anything like me, you have multiple books on the go at once, which means lots of bookmarks are required. These are also really nice gifts you can give to your family and friends. I've listed the colours and materials I've used in the description below, but feel free to use whatever colours you like for these little paintings. To kick off the first one, I'm just going to cover the whole thing in a layer of water. And I'm going to do a pink to yellow gradient. You can choose whatever 2 colours you like, or you could even do a gradient wash from really pale to really opaque. This first one is going to be a pink to yellow gradient with a little floral design drawn in black marker. While that's nice and wet, I'm going to start with my yellow at the top here and just paint that down to about halfway. Then I'm going to rinse my brush off, load up my pink this time, and do the same from the bottom. And when I get to the center, I'm going to rinse my brush again, dry it off a little this time, and just use that to blend the 2 colors together. The water on the paper is really going to help us out here. It's going to help us blend our 2 colors. If it's not dark enough, you can always add more of either pigment. Then, while we leave this one to dry, I'm going to move on to my second panel. This design is going to be a loose floral wash with the details drawn in marker. Now this second one is a pretty fun technique. If you've seen any of my other tutorials, you know that I love a little paint splatter. So I'm going to use an Ultramarine Blue just as a wash, which means lots of water on the brush and just as much pigment to create the amount of darkness that you like. So I'm going to really load up that wet brush and I'm going to come in and just splat down a few little droplets. This can be messy, so I like to keep it nice and close to the paper so I don't get it on my other panels. Now, while those are wet, I'm going to rinse my brush completely, have it still relatively wet, and then I'm going to come and just give the hint of a floral design. Rinse it again and repeat this process. And one final time at the bottom. Now while it's still wet, you can add in more color. So I've just added more ultramarine to my brush, and I'm just going to dot the color in and let it blend up on its own. I'm going to dot the color where I plan to have the base of my flower. And if you like, you can go and add a few more little spatters on top of that. And then again, we are just going to leave that panel to dry. My third and final bookmark is going to be a little impressionistic lavender sprig. So I'm going to start this one by covering the whole thing in water, just as we did for the first bookmark. And for this one, I'm going to use just a light wash of purple to create a nice mauve. Going to soak up that nice wash like we just did with the blue. And then here we go again with our paint splatter, just to get a nice mottled mauve background. Now, if you want to speed up the drying process, grab a hairdryer and I'll see you back here in a few minutes. Okay, I've just come to check on my bookmarks, and while this panel here is still wet, I'm going to add a little bit more purple. So I'm going to load up my brush with a bit of a darker pigment this time. I'm going to come back in for another teeny little splatter, just to make it a bit more dramatic. Okay, and we are back with some nice dry paper. We're going to do some illustrations with this black liner. I've got a 0.3 marker here. It's really good for doing very thin details. So for this first one, I'm actually going to remove the tape just on the two sides, because I want my drawing to go outside of the border into the white space. For this first bookmark, I'm going to draw three, I think they're called thistle inspired floral shapes. You'll see what I mean in a second. I'm not sure what the correct name is, but they look cool. So if you know what they are, please tell me in the comments. Now, I hope you enjoy some nice lo-fi beats while we draw together. For bookmark number 2, I'm going to draw some loose impressionistic flower petal shapes over top of our blue splashes to create a very abstract floral design. I'm just going to use one stroke for each of these flowers, and I'm not going to think too much, I'm not going to spend too much time on them, I'm just going to draw. For a few of these lines, I might come back in and just do one slightly overlapping for almost kind of a messy look. And now onto the third and final bookmark. So I've just picked up a small number 1 little paintbrush here. I'm going to load it up with our purple, and I'm going to paint 2 or 3 little sprigs of lavender. Keeping it nice and loose, impressionistic little sprigs. We're going to finish this off with my favorite technique. Just using the number 1 brush, a few little tiny paint splatters in the corner. The final touch, we're going to wait for this one to dry and then use our pen to paint 2 tiny stems. I'm just drawing in little sections of stem, not a line across the whole thing, just to make it look like the stem is in the center of the petals, not on top. And there you go, your very own set of handmade, personalized bookmarks. If you've stayed with me this far, I would love to know in the comments, what are you reading right now? I am reading, for the second time round, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. And if you know, we are all still waiting for that elusive third novel to come out. I hope you enjoyed painting with me today. As always, I love having you here. If you haven't already, I would really appreciate you giving this video a like and hit subscribe for more fun and easy watercolor tutorials. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.